Okay, welcome to Creative Love Radio, episode number 6. We're going to be talking about attachment styles in love and relationships. Welcome to Creative Love Radio with Debbie and Dr. Rob. With love, the old rules of dating and commitment no longer apply. The technology's changing, roles are changing as women are stepping into their power all around the world. And the way to approach relationships needs to evolve with them. We are redefining relationships to guide you to greater love, more success, and living your purpose through the latest research in neuroscience, Jungian psychology, and Eastern wisdom. Get ready for another inspirational episode of Creative Love Radio. Welcome again to another episode. Hello, Rob. How are you today?
Very good. How are you doing?
Good. We're talking about bonding and attachment today.
Our favorite topic.
Every topic is our favorite topic. Welcome to Creative Love Radio. And I'm excited about this topic because it's something that, some people know about and other people don't. And let's talk about it. The theory of attachment style is actually a psychological theory.
Yeah.
And who came up with this theory and why?
Well, this crazy guy named John Bowlby, back in the 60s or even earlier, he started to look at how, as babies, humans attach to their primary caregiver, mainly their mother, but not necessarily. Anybody that's really taking care of them will become that attachment object, as he calls it. But later on, and this is more recent, people started wondering, do those attachment styles that we acquire in infancy with our moms, with our mothers, do they carry over into adulthood? And do they play into the way we bond with our love mate, our spouses, our girlfriends and boyfriends, and all those great things? And sure enough, they found that yes, there's a very strong correlation between how you relate early on as an infant and how you relate it in relationships as an adult.
And most people who've done any kind of therapy or self-help, they probably know that something in my childhood happened, and this is why we have the relationships that we do. But I think of this as sort of a normal way of adaptation as a child. Like we learn how to interact and connect with the people around us. And so we naturally learn a certain style that works, and then we carry that on basically to survive.
Right.
We've learned it, so it's not a bad thing. It's not a dysfunction. It's just how we coped with this style of our parents. And it's interesting. A lot of people that I've worked with over the years have said, "Oh, my mother was this way, or she was cold, or she was too needy, or she was this or that." And it's like we have to remember that she was also conditioned to have a certain style from her mother and then her mother's mother and passing down. So you can't just blame mom for this.
Right.
A lot of times there's a lot of variables, culture and history, long history of bonding throughout the generations and generations.
Yeah. If we think about the way we use it, use this information, this understanding of attachment styles, and that it does come from early conditioning, let's say, or early experiences, we see it more as an opportunity to transform these. We don't necessarily see them as, okay, you're stuck with that and you're just going to have to live with it or try to compensate somehow. Really, our approach is that we want to know about these things so that we can transform them and change them and make conscious choices about them. And that, therefore, they're very important. People need to understand what we know from psychology, from, experimentation and theory building and, people that have done the work. What does it tell us about how we are creating relationships and relating in relationships? So it's really important information. And what I've seen so far is some people know about this stuff. I mean, yeah, I've heard people talk about attachment styles, but they talk about them in a very clinical way, right? That you're kind of stuck with them.
And this is how you can navigate through them. And it's good to find someone who has like a different style so you can work together, or maybe the same style you kind of match up with, finding the right match based on that style, which...
Right, or a lot of people use a theory simply to explain why you're behaving a certain way in relationships.
Mm-hmm. Or nowhere to change it, though.
Yeah, exactly. They stop there and they don't tell you, well, what do I do with that?
And you know what's so interesting is I've done so much self-help. As opposed to you who'd studied psychology, I was doing the bookstore self-help education. And what I realized is that some of these styles, when I kind of learn about them later, is that I really thought I was different than I was. And so a lot of these styles are not even conscious. We don't even realize that we're doing something, or that we're avoiding something, or we're not letting people get close to us. When we think of attachment style, think of it as how close do you let someone get to you? How much do you let people in? And who threatens that trust? And then what do you do when trust is threatened? And all those things happen in a relationship. So if you don't know what your style is and don't know how to basically step outside of it, you're basically on a conditioned, programmed response in relationships. And when you're relating to someone else, you're just going to act on autopilot.
Very much so. And it not only plays out in relationships, but in the way you see the world, basically. Do you see the world as a friendly, secure place that you can go out and do your thing, and that you're going to find support and friendship and warmth and friendliness? Or is it a scary place, right? Are you anxious, insecure about your place in the world? It's going to play out in everything you're doing. So it's really important to understand some of these concepts and to try to apply them directly into what you're doing with your life.
So let's see what they are, and then we'll chat a little bit more about it.
It's not that complicated. There's two types. You're either secure in your attachment styles or insecure. Mm-hmm. All right. It gets a little more variation, or there's more variation in the insecure part.
Well, let's start with secure. What does that mean?
Yeah, so what does a secure attachment style mean? It means that you are comfortable in giving and receiving affection, love, compliments, attention, right? It doesn't freak you out when
criticism or constructive criticism, or
yes, exactly,
like feedback.
Well, in relationships, right, there's always going to be compromising and back and forth. I mean, that's what a relationship is. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't mean you're not going to have any problems, but that you're going to be securely able to manage the problems and the situations that arise in relationships in a mature and secure way. It's not going to freak you out. You're going to make the decisions you need to make as they arise. Mm-hmm. Now, having said that, we doubt there's anybody that's 100% secure.
Oh, really?
In relating.
Except for you, Dr. Rava.
Because relationships push your buttons. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, that's by definition. It's if you're in love or in a relationship, mm-hmm. it's going to challenge you emotionally.
And also, I think different people. So some people can have like an insecure style until they get to know someone, and then when they're someone you've been friends with forever, and you trust, or a sister or sibling, or someone you really feel close with. It can be very secure. So it could also, the style can change based on the person.
Right.
Which can be confusing because people think, well, how come I'm so, comfortable with my friends, but then when I go on a date, I feel like all clammed up, or I'm in a business meeting and I can run a, multi-million-dollar company, but when I go on a date, I feel like a little scared little girl. Like, why do these things happen? And that's why we don't want to put you in one category. We want to show you the styles, but they're not a personality trait. I think that's really important. I think people identify with the styles of their psychology, And everything we teach is about, this isn't about you're locked into this type of personality. It's just how you are functioning in the relationship. So it's good to recognize that.
Right. And so when we look at the insecure styles, there's 3 distinct ones. The first insecure one is anxious, preoccupied. So this is the person that is very needy, perhaps. They're never truly, let's say, satisfied with the other person's attention. They always believe, well, what if he or she starts wandering and looking around, right? So
they have to kind of keep checking in with the person all the time and
yes, kind
texting all the time.
Yeah, and doubting, right?
Yeah, so and questioning their stuff.
Exactly. So even when they receive compliments, they might say, "Oh, that's not true," or they're probably just saying that just to make me feel good, but they don't really mean it. In other words, they have problems. They're anxious about that attachment, right? That relationship to that person.
So they feel insecure, so they project that on all the situation, and they read the other person as if they're going to leave, their worst fear. Yes. And so that it's a very fearful type of style.
And we all have a little bit of that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, again, we're not saying somebody's just purely like that.
It's not a personality.
Yeah. But we know that people tend to have these styles in general, right? So if you are a secure person, if your attachment style is secure, you'll tend to be secure most of the time. If you are anxious, preoccupied, if that's your style, you'll tend to be anxious and preoccupied most of the time, and then with little bits of, security and comfort and all that stuff. Obviously, you wouldn't be able to even initiate a relationship if all you were was anxious and preoccupied.
Wouldn't that be a jealousy would be a trait of that?
Absolutely.
Someone who's really jealous all
Yes.
the time and very, what's that called? When they want to always be kind of controlling you. I can't think of the word.
Yeah, we've all been either with friends or lovers or mates or spouses that they're just difficult to relate to, right? No matter what you do, if you pay attention to them, if you're friendly, if you're good, kind, they want more, or it's not what they want.
It's never enough.
Never enough. Or if you're not paying attention to them, why not? And jealousy and those kind of things. And, we know them from early on when we start dating, from junior high school on, and up till current life situations.
The word I'm thinking of is possessive. So if you have if you think about an ex or someone you've dated that was always jealous, always possessive, that would be why. And so, and it's very important to think about, don't take it personal that you have this style that you learned, and then also don't take it personal when someone's behaving in these styles toward you, because it's not about you. It's not, they're reacting from a conditioned place.
Yes.
So it's very, very important to know, because a lot of people are like, why did I attract that type of person? And it's like, they have their own stuff going on too. Of course, we have to look at the reflection and see why, if it's a pattern for us, so we can go into that.
And this is where it gets tricky, that most of us will not be able to see our own pattern.
Yeah, so we see it in other people.
Yeah, exactly. It's rare that the person has enough insight to say, oh, I see that I've been insecure and anxious, right? It's most of the time no, I was right to be insecure and anxious because they were flirting or they were doing that and that, right? And so they justify their anxiety and preoccupation by projecting.
And they need so much attention. It's like, like exhausting. And then I remember when I would date and a guy would be very needy with me and calling all the time. And we've all had that happen, where someone just kind of becomes very preoccupied with us, and we kind of want to be adored, but it was like, it's a little too much. It's like, oh my God. And then I'm pushing them away and thinking, oh, they're too needy. But I realized that was a part of me. Like, it turned me off so much because I could be like that if I was the pursuer in the relationship, to be insecure and jealous and always worried that they're not going to love me back type of thing.
We're not like that.
No,
Okay.
not anymore.
So far we have secure, anxious, preoccupied, and then the next one is avoidant. Right? And avoidant falls into two categories. You're either dismissive avoidant or fearful avoidant. So let's look at the dismissive avoidant first. So avoidant means you're going to try to get away from something, right? Avoid the situation. And dismissive means you're kind of saying, I don't need that.
It's not important.
Not important to me.
You're not important to me.
I don't need a relationship.
Yeah.
I'm fine the way I am. Right?
Yeah, how many people have said that to us over the years? I'm not really looking for a relationship right now.
Yes. I'm fine. I'm happy the way I am. Why would I want to mess up my life?
I'm focused on my career right now.
Yeah. I got other stuff to do.
Got to take care of my kids, right?
My family needs my help. I don't have time for a relationship. I'm too busy, et cetera, right? So that's their way of avoiding and dismissing the need for a relationship.
So it comes in the form of more of a powerful, like I'm almost too good for it, or just above that type of thing. Like, I don't have time for dating. It's
right.
Too much of it. Men are just trouble, It's like I'm too good for that type of, almost like a superiority. Like it's not something I want to, but you don't realize you're doing it when you're obviously saying that. You believe it.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to them, and they come across, like you say, as perhaps independent, right? I'm independent.
I'm an independent woman.
Yeah, I don't need a relationship, and therefore they tend to avoid getting in serious relationships. If they do date, they might, kind of keep that attitude, right? I'm not looking for anything serious. I'm just, having a good time.
Oh yeah.
Does that sound familiar?
Yes. Or, I'm moving, so I'm not going to have anyone, I'm not going to get serious with anyone right now. Or
Yeah. I'm working on my career.
Yeah.
That was my
that was
favorite.
Yours for a while?
Yeah.
Or your favorite?
Makes perfect sense.
Yes.
The second avoidant one is a fearful avoidant. Now, this is a little bit different.
How is that different than the anxious one?
Well, the anxious one tends to get into relationships.
Oh, she wants
right?
to or
Yes.
he wants to
to
latch on.
Exactly. The fearful one is, no, it's too scary, right? Relationships, they're going to hurt me. Why would I get into a relationship and give my heart up and open up my emotions and, become attached to someone? That's crazy. They fear opening up. Now, they might have relationships and dating and even partners, but they're very afraid, very guarded.
Well, they're both avoidants are afraid of opening up. One just admits, neither of them one admits it, that they're afraid.
Mm-hmm.
So they're kind of like, I've been hurt before. I don't want to go back online again. I don't want to go into another relationship. I got divorced, or, he cheated. I don't want to be cheated on again, that type of thing, versus I'm too busy. And so it's very different than the story around avoiding in the fearful way. And the fearful one, could they also be shy, like really shy?
Yes.
Like afraid of people and being around people?
Yeah, avoidance in general tend to be shy. Now, again, we emphasize you're not stuck with this. If these are your patterns, or you recognize these as one of your patterns, don't fear. Don't throw your hands up in despair. You can change these things, mainly because they are surface patterns, meaning they're conditioned into us from past experiences. There are genetic components to all human behavior. We know we're kind of born with predispositions for everything, but we know the environment, the early experiences in our lives are very, very important, especially in relationships and the way we see ourselves, the way we carry ourselves, our willingness to engage with the world, our levels of happiness, all those things are very learnable. Mm-hmm. And so whatever has been your experience up to now, you can change this, you can transform it. And Debbie's going to tell you how.
Yes. Well, the first step is to realize you have a problem. No, you realize that what your style is. And I think one of the main messages we have is that when you get into a relationship and you get it, and I think we miss or rate ourselves, our worthiness based on the other person's behavior toward us.
Right.
We say, well, if they don't call, then something must be wrong with me, or they're avoiding me, or they're being needy. You know, where do I have to put my boundaries up? Those ideas of I did something wrong, or if I was prettier, if I was, had a better body, or if I had more money, then I'd be more attractive, and this pattern wouldn't show up. But so let's take all that away and remember that it's nothing wrong with you. First of all, you are worthy of love. And these patterns are so automatic that we don't even realize that we're doing them. So the first thing is to recognize the pattern.
Absolutely.
And recognize that it's not a problem or a dysfunction. It's just a way you've learned to cope with people. And I want you to look at all the past relationships you've had and look at how did that pattern show up in the partners that you attracted? How did I always say we fit together like puzzle pieces? So a needy person, that anxious, insecure style would probably be always attracted to the avoidant person. Mm-hmm. The person, the guy that doesn't want a relationship, or he's too busy, he's dating 5 girls, he's just not, he's working on his career right now, you heard that. And or the opposite, if you're the career woman and you're saying, nope, I'm focused on my career, you'll tend to attract more of those needy people, and you just won't be attracted to them, and you'll be like, why? There's no one attractive out there. Right. And so it's kind of seeing how those two sides go together.
Yeah, it almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that whatever you think is out there, your fear, your worst fear, your worst nightmare comes true because we tend to project these things onto the other person as well. But we also end up attracting what we're trying to avoid. Right? That's a basic principle in psychology, or in Jungian psychology anyway. What we resist persists. Right? So whatever we're resisting, whatever we're trying to avoid, ends up showing up, sure enough. And we end up, in bed with it.
Literally sometimes.
With our problems or with what we're trying to avoid. So it's quite a thing to understand your attachment styles. It's an important aspect of getting into secure relationships where you're able to give and receive love.
And so it will vary from person to person. And as you grow up, your attachment style may adjust and change just by default, just because as you become more confident, maybe less needy, things change in your life through life experience. Our brain is always rewiring itself to see ourselves differently all the time. So you may just naturally grow out of it, but that takes a long time. One suggestion I would have is really all out of the 4, we all just want to be secure. We want to have a real secure style so that when we're in a relationship, we're going to match up with someone who's secure. If you're secure in your own style, you're not going to be attracted to or attracting people with insecure styles, with avoidant or anxious and all those, a jealous person or an avoidant person that doesn't want to commit. If you take care of your own mind, the person that you are attracted to, that you're meant to be with, will reflect that secure style. So the reason why we don't have a secure style is because there's some kind of fear around it. There's something that feels uncomfortable for us to be secure. So what you want to do is first identify the pattern you have, and then the second part is, what is the secure? Why am I so afraid to just open up? What's that? What's the fear around that? And so, of course, we're not going to go through the whole transformation in one podcast, but that would be a really great first step for you, is to spend some time. And don't know if you want to talk about metaconsciousness a little bit, maybe looking at that, what is like opening it up a little bit and questioning the style and why am I this way and what's going on.
A lot of people tell us, look, I know my pattern, right? They say, I know my pattern and nothing has changed. Mm-hmm. Well, that's because insight is not enough.
Insight is not a transformation.
Insight does not transform, does not change anything except that you know now that this is my pattern. Now, it's a necessary piece. We need to understand, we need to see our pattern, and we need to understand what is my attachment style in relationships. So it gives us at least a direction in which to move, but we still have to take action in order to change it, right? We can't just say, okay, I know it, and therefore wait for a miracle to happen. The action step, let's say, is to have a direct experience of this attachment style, but with this new understanding, right? Mm-hmm. Now you're coming into a situation, you're dating or you're trying to relate now, and you're observing your own mind and seeing, why is the pattern playing out? What is the story that's running in your mind, in that little ego voice saying about relationships? So if you are anxious preoccupied, your little story might be, oh, they're going to betray me. They're going to play around.
They're going to leave me.
They're going to cheat on me.
I'm not good enough.
I need to hang on to them. I need to make sure, they call me when they get home from work or something. And that kind of preoccupied, anxious style, right, will either drive people away or if they stay, well, then they'll have a hard time being in a relationship with you. But anyway, that experience of seeing your style playing out in real time is what we want to get. That's that direct experience. What it does, it gives us a sense of taking the reins instead of just kind of playing along and buying into the story that our ego is telling us. Now we are questioning it and observing it from a neutral point. That's what we call metaconsciousness. Metaconsciousness simply means above consciousness. We are rising above our patterns and observing them playing out. And it's an incredible experience because that's the transformation.
Well, yeah, it's like being asleep at the wheel and then waking up and then redirecting your mind. But if you're in it asleep, just being pulled into the conditioned responses, you're just kind of sleepwalking. And so the metaconsciousness really separates the pattern from your divine mind or your higher mind, which is the wisdom within you.
Yes.
And can I just say one thing, too, about this attachment style, whether it's avoidant or anxious? All of them, a lot of people are like, oh, well, that is because insecure people have this one. And maybe if a guy plays hard to get, then they have, they must have more confidence. Both situations reflect someone who is dependent upon someone else for their own worth. And if your avoidant person is so dependent that they even reject it, they're trying to not push it away. They're running because they're so afraid of becoming that, kind of activating that dependence, where the other person is actually having the experience of dependency, but they're both the same thing. They're both seeing another person as a threat to you or as someone who's going to rescue you or someone who's going to crush you. And that's out of all these things, to have a secure attachment style, you have to know that no matter what you do, no one person can knock you down or take away anything from you or even lift you up. And when you let go of that dependency on that other person, the other world, people out there agreeing with how great you are, it's so much freedom. And that's really what we want to do. But as we were growing up, we were so dependent on our moms loving us or people in school liking us, that would so condition in us to depend on this social acceptance of everyone. But to really truly evolve, we need to step outside of that. So knowing these patterns is one thing, and then stepping out of it is really you're going to another level. You're not just fixing, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm avoidant, so now I'm going to be more open and go toward it. You don't want to just rearrange the furniture. You want to transcend all the patterns and get to the secure, where no one is going to make or break you.
Yeah, like most transformation, it requires us facing our fear.
Mm-hmm.
What is the fear that is inherent in that attachment style? And it's usually nothing, but...
I know, it's like this mind, these thoughts.
Yeah, but conditioning is very powerful and it sticks to us until we're conscious enough to transform it.
And even emotionally, we feel it in our bodies when we're faced with going against our conditioning. There's a pressure sometimes in our chest, that kick in the gut feeling in our stomach when we have to confront someone and tell them how we feel. We've all had that experience of having to call someone up who's anxious and say, I'm not interested in you. All that emotion that comes up of pushing someone away because we don't want to hurt them, because we're really feeling like we're going to hurt ourselves. We don't want that to happen to us. And so we tend to kind of have that empathy for others. And that's not a bad thing to have. But when you're so dependent on that other person, either liking you or keeping you safe, you're never free. And that's not a healthy, advanced relationship that we like to be in, is a relationship where you can be yourself and not feel that you're walking on eggshells all the time. So, so great topic. That half hour went really fast, huh?
Yeah, it's a great topic, and obviously there's a lot more to it. But for now, think about these things. Look at your attachment patterns and think about your style, and take heart, because you can transform your attachment style.
Yes, you can. And of course, if you ever have any questions about our programs or anything, you can just go to our website at creativelove.com and talk to our coach and staff, and she'll help you out. So this great call, Rob, lots of great info, and I hope everyone enjoyed it.
See you next time.
Take care. You've been listening to Creative Love Radio with Debbie and Dr. Rob. For more information, visit us on our website at creativelove.com.